Now we're going to move on to fixing blades, which, just so you guys know, this is the first time I've touched my blades since March, and it is now August. So, breaking me out of the closet here. So, you have your socket apart either because you were having problems with it, your socket was loose, or you're just assembling the blade. So, this is going to work. You're going to do the same things whether you're fixing or not or putting it together for the first time. So the most important thing is to make sure that your wire is the pretty coppery color. So if you're putting it together for the first time, you're probably going to have the thready insulation on it. And then also there's an under layer of like shellac coating the wire that's darker and redder. So you need to get both of those off. So you take just a shred of sandpaper and you just run it along the blade a little bit. Along the wire rather, just so you get that copper color and all of the fuzz is gone. Yeah, you're going to need to do it more if you are just building the blade, because the shellac is going to be heavier, but since I'm just repairing the socket, then I only did it a couple times just to get off any corrosion that would have happened. Okay, so our socket is loose, and you cannot, per the new rules, that changed a couple years ago, you can't put the wire up through the hole in the socket. You have to actually wrap it around the outside. So you want to put your wire so it's on top, but it's in between, on top of the plastic bushing, but beneath the washer and screw head. So you just want to, the way I like to do it is I like to put it so that there's insulation. The plastic part slips in between there. It just gives it more stability and it's less likely to break because this is a really annoying part to fix. So I start off with that and then I wrap whatever other wire I have around there until I have just a little tail left. And then I'm going to push down on the top of it and finger tighten the little nut on the underneath. Go in the right direction. Yep. So you're going to tighten it. Okay. So tighten it like that. And then you can either use needle nose or a little wrench to grab the underneath nut. And then you're going to want to use a screwdriver and twist. When you wrap the wire, you always want to wrap it in a counterclockwise direction so that you're twisting in the same direction that your wire wraps. Actually, that's wrong. In a clockwise direction so that you're twisting the way that your wire wraps. You'll see it so that each twist you do wraps the wire more around rather than unwinding it. I believe it's a clockwise direction. But yeah, you just want to snug it down. And then now that you have that snug, the easiest thing is to use a little wrench, but you can do it with just a set of pliers. Okay, so a couple things to keep in mind with the socket. One is that it's tight and that the wire is in between the plastic bushing and the top of the top screw. So not down right next to the base of the big metal flange. The second thing is that I have this piece of wire sticking out. So I just want to wiggle this back and forth so that it'll break right up next to the socket. And it just comes off pretty like that. Easy. I'm not going to cut it. And then there's no remaining wire piece up here. The second thing is that you want to make sure that there's a good gap between the base of the socket here and your bell guard. If you jam it all the way down next to the bell guard, your weapon won't register a touch. I mean, you can have, as long as there's a little bit of space, But just be aware of that if your weapon's ever not registering, to make sure that the socket is pulled away from the bell guard. And then yeah, you can just tuck the wire back in. It's not too difficult, it's just annoying to do. Most important thing to do is make sure that you have all of the fuzz and and shellac off of the wire. Otherwise, anything that you do, all the tightening and everything isn't going to do anything because there's not going to be a connection anyways. By putting the insulation up in the socket, it makes it so that there's not a bare piece of wire hanging off between the plastic and when it enters the socket screw bit, because that, number one, it's gonna make it so your wire breaks more easily, and number two, it can cause it could ground out your weapon so that it won't register a touch. So you are in the clear if it's tight and if the plastic spaghetti goes all the way into the socket and it's not touching the bell guard. And it was easy.